Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their journeys to building their business. And because we know that success in business is not something that we can do on our own, we're taking some time to recognize the folks who have helped us along the way and giving them some shout outs on this show and hearing about the way that they helped the successful business owners to excel. I'm excited to have a fellow business owner with us today from Indiana. My guest and his wife have taken their kids to 35 national parks and have 4 more planned over the next 2 years. In his downtime, he plays sand volleyball all year round, and he's in a very competitive league. So we'll want to hear a little bit more about that here in a minute. And he's most proud of his kids and watching them bloom into leaders as they become adults. It's my pleasure to welcome Jason to the show today. Hello, Jason.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, hey, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live, and a little bit about your family and hobbies.
Yeah, so name is Jason Butler. The last name is spelled weird. It's got an E in there. We say it's spelled Beutler. I've asked Grandpa where the E came from. He has no idea. So we think we're German, but we don't really know. But we've said Butler for as long as as the family can remember. Originally from Indiana. My father moved around quite a bit growing up, so I lived pretty much in every major city north of Indianapolis. Though I say I graduated from, I say South Bend is home because I graduated high school from there. And then let's see, I've got 2 kids. I've got a 20-year-old that is a sophomore at Belmont University down in Nashville, Tennessee. And I have a 17-year-old that is into music and plays volleyball himself on the high school team. So hobbies are for the most part for me, it's hiking. We like doing day hikes at the national parks and volleyball. I play a lot of volleyball, 2 or 3 times a week. It's hard to see on a video, but I am 6'6", so I don't have to be good. I just have to be tall.
Fantastic. And I mentioned it earlier, your wife, tell us about her.
Yeah, so my wife and I have been married, let's see, 24 years this year.
Congratulations.
So thank you. We got married actually while we were still in college. Kendra and I run the business together. So she does everything that's important, and I go out and about and sell, and I'm the face of the business, but she's the one who makes it all happen behind the scenes.
Fantastic. How'd you get into sand volleyball?
Let's see. We had moved down to Indianapolis after we got married, and I ran into a group of people that said they were playing, and they asked me to come play with them, mostly because I was tall. And I'd always enjoyed volleyball, but in the 90s, volleyball wasn't that big of a thing for men. And so my high school didn't have a team or anything like that. So started playing and found I really kind of enjoyed it. And then one thing led to another, and I decided to come out to just a Sunday afternoon 2-on-2 sand volleyball league. I'd never really played that competitively before, and I knew the guy who was organizing the league, and he hooked me up with somebody who had played at the Olympic level, and said he will have you playing really well by the end of this tournament. And so that was maybe 15 years ago. That changed me because. Again, he was all over me. He taught me how to play in about a day's worth of coaching. So it was fun.
That's awesome. Hey, Jason, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Well, growing up, I was actually a pretty short kid for most of my life. So middle school, I was one of the shorter kids out there. Between my freshman year and sophomore year, I grew over a foot.
Oh, wow.
And so, as you can imagine, if you grow that fast, hand-eye coordination is just not a thing. Like I had trouble walking upstairs. I couldn't. You see the videos of like deer as they're born, barely able to function. That was me for like a whole year. And one of my high school friends, I actually tried out for golf at the time. And again, like I've no hand-eye coordination at all. So I'm terrible at all this. And he was a really big Disney cartoon fan. And so he just started calling me Goofy. because I was that goofy. I was that out of control all the time. So it stuck. And so when in golf, I ended up my senior year, they bought me a golf bag with the goofy playing golf on it. And that just sort of was my nickname in high school. And it stuck because I was so uncoordinated.
Thank you for sharing. I love it. Jason, tell us, how did the business come about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
So entrepreneurship was sort of in my blood early on. I didn't take a step back a little bit. So while I'm in college, the dot-com bubble starting to kind of grow a little bit. And basically, if you could program at all, you were getting pretty well-paying jobs. And so in the late 90s, I got a job while I was still in school, writing some software for a website. That business ended up going under. But the three of us that were building that website were like, man, we're pretty good at this and people are willing to pay money for it. Why don't we try it on our own? So we started a business in 98, 99, and had no idea what we were doing. It was a disaster. We ran it into the ground. I mean, we ran it for about 3 or 4 years. Best lessons I've ever learned came from that time frame. But it got in my blood. So even though we were not successful, it made me realize that, hey man, I think I could probably do this. And so in 2010, the time had come. My wife had encouraged me, and I had gone through a series of other things I actually went to the University of Notre Dame to get an MBA, and that kind of gave me a little bit of confidence, and I decided, it's time to get back out on my own again. And so really that's where we decided to go after this. I think to be a business owner, you have to be a little delusional. Like you have to think, that you've got ideas that are better than anyone else in the world. You've got to believe that you can execute better than anyone else. Like you got to have a belief in yourself that's pretty deep. And so it took a little while for me to kind of rebuild that after I messed up the first business. But like I said, once it's in my blood, I couldn't get it out. So
I love that. So the always looking to figure out how to do something better than other people and monetize that. Is that a fair understanding? Yeah.
Yes, that's how it started, right? That's how I am. So
well, tell us about your company today. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
So the company is called RoboSource. What we do is we're really passionate around helping people basically do work that matters. We believe in meaningful work. I believe you want to wake up in the morning and you want your job to be important, that you want to make a difference in people's lives. One of the things that keeps us from doing that are a lot of the mundane everyday tasks that happen. Just things that you have to do to keep business running. So we're a software development company that specializes in artificial intelligence and automation. So we basically build software bots to help small and mid-sized businesses automate the mundane tasks to free up their team to do things that are impactful and strategic for the business.
Wonderful. What are some examples of those mundane tasks that you can automate?
Yeah, so we've gone everywhere from one of our clients received over 300,000 incoming transcripts every year, and they had to run them through an eligibility process. Those transcripts are coming in as PDFs, and they're all in different formats, and they had to hand key the grades, the classes, the schools into a system so they could determine eligibility. We automated that process for them. Took them from about 50 people doing that down to about 5, just dealing with the exceptions that came out. That's 45 people they were able to distribute through the rest of the business to do strategic things. That's one kind of high extreme example. The other level is we've got another client that's a recruiter, and one of the things that they need to do is navigate LinkedIn, identify potential candidates for jobs they're trying to fill. They then have to look up their email and phone number information, and then they have to put it into a candidate tracking application. They're paying people to hand key, moving all of that data. We wrote a software bot that did that for them.
Oh, wow.
So every day, basically, whenever they decide, they can say, hey, bot, go transfer the data. In about 15 minutes, it'll move 200 names from one system to the other for them. Another interesting example, I'm sure you've all heard of ChatGPT now. It's kind of the hot thing. Well, one of the things that we've done is work with a company that, or a doctor who was essentially handwriting all of their emails back to their clients and their patients, telling them, kind of helping kind of guide them on actions they need to take based upon blood work that they were receiving, using Chat GPT like technology, not exactly Chat GPT, but technology similar to that. We actually build the email now for them. So take the incoming data, generate the outcoming email so that it can get sent to the patient, put it in a draft status so the doctor can review it. Instead of spending 30 to 40 minutes analyzing and sending it out, she's now spending about 5.
Oh,
So
wow.
it allows her to continue to meet with new patients, which is really where her revenue driver is. So
That,
those are just some of the high level quick ones that came to mind.
yeah,
So,
that's fantastic. One of the things that we talk about with clients is that about 80% of day-to-day, work in a business is routine work. It is stuff that can be automated. So I love what you guys are doing to be able to free up the business owner and the team to be able to deal with the exceptions and humanize the exceptions. So that's fantastic.
exactly. Yeah.
Jason, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though maybe you didn't think you could, and the impact that person had on you.
Well, again, I have to say my wife. So when our first business that we started while we were in school came to an end, and I ended up having to work my way up through the corporate world, that was a hard ego hit, and a hard. I basically kind of went into a little depression over the fact that I had failed, and I was struggling with, what does that mean for me? Wasn't really accomplishing the goals that I had in my life. At the time, I'd actually had worked my way up to becoming vice president of IT for a company. So it wasn't like I wasn't making an impact in work. It just wasn't the impact I wanted to be making.
Right.
And I had a sort of an underlying doubt in myself as a result of some of the failures I had had prior. And so my wife knew that a lifelong dream of mine was to go to Notre Dame. Having graduated high school up in South Bend and been around a lot of that environment, it was an area that it was a school that I was very passionate about. But there's this fear. It's one thing to be able to say, I have a dream about going to Notre Dame, but I never really tried. And so I probably could have, but the cards just weren't dealt that way. It's another to apply and be rejected. That's a different level of, like, they didn't want me, right? So
Right.
there's a little bit of that fear, especially in my late 20s, at this point in my life. My wife pushed me hard to go ahead and apply to the executive MBA program up at Notre Dame. And lo and behold, I was accepted, and spent 22 months with some of the best leaders in the world. They'd fly in from all over. I mean, we're talking like from overseas in Singapore, from San Jose, California, from Guatemala, from Philadelphia. They'd all fly in, and these are leaders at eBay and KPMG and Disney and Alcoa, and they're all flying in for class. And I sat in class with 60 of probably the best leaders in the country. Not only learning the Masters of Business Education curriculum, but also learning from them around me,
Sure.
from all of these leaders around me. And so Kendra pushed me to go after it, but then I'm surrounded by these leaders that, on one hand, was inspirational because I learned from them daily. On the other hand, made me realize that they're all people too.
Yeah.
And that I actually had quite a bit to offer from the technology space, that I knew more about a certain topic than any of them ever hoped to. And it gave me a level of confidence that I was like, no, I have something to offer and something to bring here. So that Notre Dame experience was really kind of formidable, and it only happened because Kendra literally filled out like half the application for me. So,
It's awesome. Isn't it amazing how powerful that doubt and fear can be, and stop us from realizing, our full potential? And it happens all the time. It's such a powerful, so it's almost a physical barrier to, becoming who we're meant to be.
yes, and it does it feels physical when you're experiencing it. Just even the ability to make yourself do something. I laugh now because I can't imagine having not gone to Notre Dame. But beforehand, literally, as there's an essay you're supposed to write, and Kendra's sitting right next to me, going, "All right, type the next word." Right? Like it's like I just had such a low self-belief in myself at the time that it was like you said, as a physical barrier keeping me from moving forward. Now I think my wife wished I had a little bit more self-doubt, right? But
Yeah.
so,
Well, thank goodness for Kendra, and for those listening, if you don't have a Kendra, make sure you do, because having that support system and that encourager and motivator to push you beyond what you think you're capable of can have tremendous results in your, not only in your personal life, but also in your professional life. So,
yes,
well, thank you, Kendra.
yes, absolutely.
Jason, what's the biggest learning you've had as a business owner?
Failure and mistakes will happen.
Mm.
They don't necessarily reflect on you.
Mm.
This in 2018, we had grown really quickly. So really, the arc of the business was I kind of just ran it myself till about 2015. From 2010 to 2015 was just sort of me doing consulting on the side. Didn't really have a vision for the business other than I'm really good at technology, so I'm going to consult and train and help other people execute on a technology and software. 2015, we decided to make the pivot towards actually building a software consulting company. And we grew very quickly from 2015 to 2018, ended up with about 35 employees. We were making very good margins. We had grown effectively. I had diversified, I thought, well enough. And then in 2018, December, right around Christmas, 5 of my clients, all for various reasons, ended up having edicts that consultants were out, or they merged with another company, or and we lost about 70% of our revenue in about a month and a half. That's a gut punch, right? And I had not gone through enough failure to realize that it's okay. And the way I approach the failure is actually more important than the failure itself.
Right.
And so for me, that learning was, had I shifted my mindset to be like, okay, what new opportunities do I have? We would have recovered a lot faster than me sitting there ruminating on what I could have done different.
Yes.
And so failure is going to happen. That's okay. It's not the failure that matters. It's what you're going to do with it that's important.
Yeah.
And that's, I'd say, probably the biggest learning that I've learned over the last probably 5 years.
Yeah. I love that, what you said of it's not about reflecting on the woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's how quickly do you respond to what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just
Exactly.
reviewing our business, or my business, with my coach earlier this week, and looking at trend lines over the last few years, and one of the things she pointed out was, hey, look at 2 years ago, because every business has its up and downs, right? And our peaks and valleys. And she said, hey, 2 years ago, your slump was this many months, and so right and then last year the slump was shorter, and so what are you learning from that? It's like, well, it's what you said, right? We can pivot, we can adapt, we can get out of a downturn in the business, but it's mental, right? It's our mindset. It's, do we believe, and are we ready to do the next right thing?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so much of this. So much of sports is mental. So much of business is mental, and it's my mindset that really drives the. I can look back and almost tie my profitability to the mindset that I had at that point in my life.
Yes, I've actually done that exercise for a presentation I gave, and there's an exact correlation to where my mindset was and how the business was doing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Jason, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges during the years, and maybe a fellow business owner who came alongside you and helped you get through that.
So hopefully I'm not oozing geek, nerd, dork, whatever the term is these days, too much on this, but that's what I am. I am a computer scientist. I am a programmer. I am a Mountain Dew drinking, card computer science nerd.
So be you. I love it.
Yes, so that's who I am, and I love it. But The hardest transition for me is when I started a business, the list of things I can't wait to do when I own my own business. One item that never made the list was sales, selling. Like it was the last, like, matter of fact, it never even crossed my mind that I was going to have to do that. I just assumed people would come to me because I was so smart, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And so I'll never forget, I was out with a client, selling a client once, talking about some custom software we could build for him. And we're about 10 minutes into the conversation. He's sitting there polite. And then he just puts his hand up and goes, just stop for a minute. You don't know how to sell, do you? And I was like, oh, ouch. He goes, you're really bad at it. I said, oh, yeah. He goes, yeah, let me introduce you to somebody. And so he introduced me to Brian Kavicki. And Brian Kavicki is a business owner who basically taught me how to sell. But more importantly, again, he's part of he's one of the people who really taught me about my mentality. And really was like, even in the sales conversation, I kept coming into it from, here's the problems I can solve, or here's the solutions I have for you. And he's like, no. Well, it's about them. Like, it's your mentality. Like, what value are you bringing to them? What is it that they need done? How can you help them? And so his teaching me how to sell through understanding and empathizing with other people was a really big impact. But I would say over the years, my biggest challenge has been that, I'm not necessarily a salesman. It's really not in my DNA per se, but I've gotten pretty good at it. And the reason is because I realized that it's not about me. It's not about what I'm doing. It's 100% about them. And I can be interested in other people.
Yes. It makes it a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So he had a big influence on me from that standpoint.
We call what you just described, we call that professionally helping others to make a decision that's right for them.
Yeah.
And it's when that I had the same shift in my mindset of, oh, well, I can help other people make a decision that's right for them. If I don't have to sell them, I'm just guiding and directing them. And a no is okay if it's not right for them. That's a whole lot less stressful.
Yeah, by a long shot. And it's actually kind of fun.
Right? That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to put you on the spot here. If I was to ask you to pick 3 people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for being there for you, for your businesses, that, helping in your business's growth, who are those 3 people and how they help you?
Well, Kendra's going to come up first. She is my wife. She is also the president of the company. She is, in a lot of ways, the yin to my yang. I am a visionary, extrovert, lots of new ideas type of person. And she's hold on, let's think about that idea. Let's make sure it's actually helping people. And let's get the details in order and make sure you're filing your taxes, all those things.
Right? Yes.
Not to mention, she's my spouse. So at the end of the day, she sees all aspects of me. And so that support network in her is invaluable. The next one, obviously, that comes to mind is Brian, because of the sales aspect. But I'm going to go ahead and use a different person than Brian. Another person that really helped me was Dan Lacey from a finance standpoint. I have, I went and got the MBA. I know all the book knowledge, but that's different than executing it in reality.
Yes.
And so at some level, he was a coach that came in and sat next to us, especially during that growth from 2015 to 2018, and just gave me the practical advice that isn't necessarily in the books, that you wouldn't know until you're faced with it. Like, hey, you know what? As you're growing, you're probably not going to have cash. Like, you would think I'm growing, I'm going to have a lot of cash. It's like, no, you're probably not. And here's why. And then you look at it and you're like, oh, this is exactly how it's playing out. And so just that practicality, right? The feet on the ground. This is just, don't get all caught up in the numbers. There's some basics here. And he kind of helped bring that practical, emotionless approach to what's going on that front. And then last, from the business standpoint, He doesn't get enough credit in our business as he should, but his name is John Hassenmeyer. John actually was my college roommate. John and I started the first business together that ended up not working in the late 90s, early 2000s. John came on board with me in about 2013 and is our chief technical resource. He's an architect. He's frankly way smarter than I'll ever be. And he's got more experience than most people in the city. And when it comes to a technical problem, John can solve it. And so, if I'm thinking about people that really made RoboSource what RoboSource is, John Hassenmeyer is really a lot of the brains behind the automation side of things, and has been with us through thick and thin now for, I guess, over 10 years. So
awesome. I loved what you said earlier about the yin and yang. I often so we use DISC assessments to help understand the way people think and communicate and process information, and oftentimes I find that opposites attract. So whether it's married couples, usually they're opposite, as well as business partners tend to be opposite as well, because subconsciously we do know that we need our opposite to be a whole complete person.
yeah.
But then practically, I often see that sometimes there can be that rub of, oh my goodness, why are we not getting along? It's because we see the world so differently. So I love that you have that appreciation for the yin and yang. I'll build off of what I heard you say is, so you're more the visionary. So that generally means that, you can't land the plane, or you can't land the plane well. So you need somebody who's in the detailed, into the weeds, loves that, wants to embrace that. So you can be the ideator and brainstormer, and then, give it to somebody else to say, okay, put all those pieces together and figure out the details and land the plane for me. So
Exactly.
I think that's just awesome that you guys have realized that about one another, and you're leveraging each other's strengths. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Jason, if we think about the future, then over the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you're going to face in reaching your goals, and who are the types of people that you're going to need to overcome those challenges?
Looking out 3 to 5 years, one of the conversations we've had is how do we 10x our business? And that's a different way of thinking than just doubling it. It makes me have to take a big step back. For us, one of the areas that stands in the way is our business really is very service oriented right now. At the end of the day, we come in and we build custom automations for businesses. We need to pivot towards more of a product-based focus. And we actually have a product that inadvertently has come up through working with all of our clients that we started building out and that we're moving towards. That is a big shift for about every aspect of our business. I mean, the way you bill is different, right? It's no longer time and materials. It's based off a whole different model. The way you market is different. The sales cycle is different. The finances are different. The metrics that drive the finances are different. Like everything comes out different. Even the people that I hire technically need different skill sets than the ones that historically have worked with us. So we're very aware that there's a lot we don't know about this. And so there are a series of people that I right now are forefront of mind, immediately being marketing. How do you market a product? And how do you market? That's very different than the way I would market an automation service or an automation solution. The product is going to be a different thing. I don't know how to do that yet. So that's an area I got to work on. Hiring strategies. We've got to identify the gaps with the people that we currently have versus what we need. And I'm not sure what that looks like yet. So there's a gap there, and so we've got to find some people that can help come alongside of us to find that gap and make sure that we're filling in the right pieces there. Product development is a whole different concept than building custom software. Building custom software, I'm looking very specifically at your processes, and I'm making sure I'm executing them in the most efficient way possible. Product development is I'm predicting that there are a series of businesses that are going to like and value the solution I give them.
Yes.
So it's a very different way of building, and there's going to be, again, we're going to stub our toe along the way. So that's a different way of thinking. So there's a product development. So those are the three that are top of mind for me right now. Though I know finance is going to be an issue, lifetime value of clients and ratios around all of that is going to come
Sure.
up, but that's for later. So
I love the mindset shift, or at least the, diversifying the business. So having, more of a leverage model, what I would call leverage models. You build it once and you continue to be able to sell it, until the next iteration of it, versus the individual customized software model of you're building it every single time. Yeah, so that's awesome. That it sounds like it's a diversification type strategy, which is great, in terms of building more safety into your business model.
yes, that's exactly what needs to happen for us right now.
That's awesome. Last question here. Jim Rohn says that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So what advice would you have for business owners who think that they need to do it on their own, believe the hype on social media that people are self-made, and are attempting to build their business without seeking the guidance and counsel of others?
That's a great point and a great question. The first thought that comes to my mind is Bob Burg's Go Giver. I don't know if you've read that one or not, or familiar with it, but he has these 5 laws of stratospheric success or whatnot, and one of them that really resonates deeply with me is what he calls the law of influence. And by that, he says that your influence is determined by how abundantly you put other people's interests above your own. And so I guess the question I would have around a self-made individual is what influence are you really having? If you've not engaged and surrounded yourself with people that you can actually put their interests above your own, then are you really influencing them? Or are you just kind of forcing your ideas on people? Again, I don't believe that business, the lesson that I learned is business isn't about me. Business is about how I can help you. And so if I'm going to be influencing you, I need people around me. But that also means it's not just so that I can be there to help you, because that's not a relationship. A relationship comes from the fact that you can help me too.
Yeah.
And that's really the kinds of relationships that actually build real businesses, and conversely, give you influence in your community to speak into things. So if you aren't abundantly helping other people and open to them abundantly helping you, then how are you growing your influence? That's just you're shouting into the wind at that point.
I love that, you're shouting into the wind. Yeah, abundance. As you were describing that book, it made me think. So I'm part of a BNI group. It made me think of their philosophy of giver's gain. Right? You get as much as you give, and you need to give abundantly. And really, at the end of the day, we're here on Earth for a very short period of time. So I've read stories of people on their deathbeds. They don't remember how much money they had. They don't remember, right? They remember the relationships they had and the impact that they had. So
yeah, exactly.
That ties back to what you're saying.
That resonates with me. And to me, that's part of what business is when my mind shifted from I'm building a business so that I can have the life that I want, to I'm building a business so I can help as many people as possible be able to have the lives that they want. That changed everything. And it did so because they immediately wanted to help me.
Right.
Ironically, because that's the way people work.
Yeah. What's the is it Jerry Maguire, help me help you, or who's yeah.
Yeah, that kind of idea, right? So,
yeah. Jason, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people in your journey. If they were all here on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
Oh, thank you. Again, we talked earlier about mindset. Psyche is a really fragile thing, and I just appreciate the belief they held in me to help support me when I didn't believe in myself, to push me into ways of thinking that helped me grow. because again, I couldn't do I'm not mentally strong enough to do it on my own. And I would challenge anyone who says they are. So
Amen to that. Jason, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much, Tim.
To everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread the movement by liking the show and posting about it on your social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.